Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Max, the Mimi Gamer here, and today I am going to be doing a video on my official review on the BattleBots Grand Final. Sorry it's taken so long. I've just had other stuff to do. So yeah. But this was a really good Grand Final. Some of the fights were absolutely amazing. Probably the best Grand Final episode we've had in a long time. Yeah, so also please do subscribe. Yeah, if you want more BattleBots content, because it hasn't been doing the best recently, so it'd be good to let me know that you do like it. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into the fights. And for the first fight, it was Soulblaze vs Minotaur, and this one was amazing. It was very much a back and forth ball. Soulblaze started off on top, was controlling Minotaur, lit it on fire. I believe they hit the batteries, which as well did that, and they landed a few good shots. Minotaur then went in for a bit of a comeback. Hit Soulblaze repeatedly, disabled the weapon, disabled the hammer saw arm, flipped them over a few times. However, Soulblaze was okay after this. Shoved Minotaur into the screws, and Minotaur, after being on fire for like 2 minutes, again, no, it was close to the full fight actually, so they're really going for trying to beat Black Dragon's record for longest time on fire, which I don't think is a good record to set, but okay. And, yeah, after Soulblaze pushed them into the screws, Minotaur couldn't move, and they stopped, and then died. So, Soulblaze moves on to the semi-finals for the second time in its career. So, yeah, it's gonna continue going. And then we have Huge vs Witch Doctor, which is, Huge is undefeated at this point. Yeah, Witch Doctor's been doing really well all season. One loss to Minotaur. However, against Huge, they lost their weapon in the first, 20 seconds? And yeah, they kept going into Huge's weapon for God knows why. Yeah, so from there, it was basically just how much damage can Huge do to Witch Doctor before the final bell. And the answer is a lot. Like, the entire rib cage off. Well, nearly. But they really just tore into Witch Doctor. Yeah. So, it ultimately went to a decision. Huge had caused all the damage. Witch Doctor had been more aggressive and slightly more in control. However, they still ruled in favour of Huge because of the sheer amount of damage that they inflicted on Witch Doctor. They didn't show the scorecards or anything, which, kind of standard, but Huge moves on to the semi-finals. Then we have Ribbot vs Hydra. And for the first minute and a half, it was just the two robots trying to get underneath each other. I love what this sport is coming to. But yeah, Hydra missed a few shots. Ribbot did nothing, basically. Until Hydra made a driving mistake and Ribbot capitalized, hit Hydra on the side. I believe it locked up one of the wheels of Hydra, and then they could just go to town on Hydra, particularly on the sides, because that's where Hydra is known to be very vulnerable. So, yeah. Ribbot ended up KOing Hydra, and are now one of the lowest seeds to ever make it to the semi-finals, as they are the 28th seed. The only other one being Hydra themselves, who made it as a 31 seed. Because, so Revolt wins, I guess. But why did they have to spend so long getting the ground game out of the way? It was kind of boring for most of the fight, just nothing happening at all. But then, after that, was one of probably the most exciting fights, and that is Riptide vs Copperhead. And in the first 30 seconds, Riptide is smothering Copperhead, causing a lot of... It looks to be causing a lot of damage. However, Copperhead is built like a brick, and they manage to take it and actually destroy Riptide's weapon. And I don't mean disable it by snapping a weapon belt. I mean split it in half, fully split it in half. And Riptide at this point had no weapon. However, they were, and I think at some point they were upside down. Copperhead landed a few good shots there. However, Copperhead managed to flip Riptide over, and then Riptide controlled them a bit. And then in the last minute, Copperhead's wheel just falls off randomly. No reason why, apparently. The wheel just falls off, and Riptide continues to shove them around. However, Copperhead is still causing a bit of damage. And it goes to a decision, ruled in a split decision to Copperhead. However, Riptide used their thingy, and they ended up actually changing it to be unanimously to Copperhead. So, Riptide's out of the tournament, and that means that all the top 4 seeds are now out of the tournament at this point. So, yeah. And for the first semi-final match, it was Soulblaze vs Robot in a rematch. So to start off with, Soulblaze and Robot just spun around each other for 30 seconds. And they spun around each other. And no one stopped. And they had to disentangle them, apparently. But then Soulblaze got around to Ribot's side, shoved them into the screws, landed a hammer saw shot, and Ribot was on fire. And so everyone likes being on fire against Soulblaze, because that's what you have to do against Soulblaze. You have to be on fire for the next 2 minutes. So naturally, Soulblaze manages to disable Ribot's weapon and then shove it around the arena for the next minute without firing its weapon. I believe that, actually no, they might land 1 or 2 shots, but nothing really notable. It goes to a decision unanimously to Soulblaze. It was kind of fun to just see Soulblaze just completely dominate Ribot, who's on fire. So Soulblaze just has this chunk of fire. But Soulblaze moves on to the grand final, actually. And then to determine Soulblaze's opponent was Copperhead vs Huge. And, so Copperhead decided to spin their weapon downwards because they weren't already at a good enough disadvantage. So naturally, they run right into Huge's weapon, and the 2 robots collide. They both get hit. That happens a few times until Copperhead loses one of their drive belts to one of Huge's overhead attacks, and then Huge starts dominating 2 Copperheads. To be fair to Copperhead, though, they did land a few shots on Huge. I believe there was one time when they were so close to hitting Huge's frame, which could have just won them the fight because of their gyro dancing, which would have been kind of funny to see, But Huge manages to disable their weapon and then disable their other wheel, and Huge moves on to face the Soul Boys in the grand final for the first time for both bots, and it looks like a great grand final. And spoiler alert, it is. Then we have the fight to decide the champion, and it is Soul Boys vs Huge. And it's Soul Boys is running this really weird looking attachment. It looks kind of funny, but you know, maybe it's genius. It kind of is though. And Huge is running basically the standard setup from last year. Yeah, they didn't run their S-Bide. God knows why. Yeah, but going into the fight, it was starting off. It looked like Huge was gonna absolutely rip Soul Boys apart. They were causing so much damage to Soul Boys. However, and it was really quite cool to see, Soul Boys did land a few shots, and then somehow Soul Boys pinned Huge and landed a hammer saw shot, which hit one of Huge's weapon belts, which then broke it obviously. So Huge has less power in their weapon, and Soul Boys then controls Huge around, lands a few shots. I believe they break one of the eyes off at some point, and Soul Boys, and it's really cool to see, and they go to a decision. It's a split decision, I think. Oh, I know, it's unanimous, I believe. The judges even went into the arena to assess the damage. So it's a really, really close fight. I don't remember the last time the judges actually went in the arena to assess the damage, but then they do a unanimous decision towards this year's champion, Soul Boys. So after the fight, you have Kenny talking to Jonathan about why he didn't appeal it, and Jonathan talks about why he thought the judges were right, and it's good sportsmanship and stuff. But more importantly, they then talk to Jameson, Go, and Soul Boys, and then they give Jameson and Team Soul Boys the giant nut, and yeah, basically confirming Soul Boys is this year's winner, and a truly deserving champion. And finally, not just a 4-wheel drive vertical spinner, maybe with some other fun little feature like a punching thing. But for the first time in years, it's not a 4-wheel drive vert. And Jameson goes a great guy. He's been doing it for so long, and he's just a deserving champion. Also, Jonathan Schultz was amazing with how he handled it, but yeah, looking forward to seeing both next year. Yeah, so good job Soul Boys, and also good job Huge. Yeah, so that's how it ended. So naturally, at the end of the season, we have to compare my original bracket, or what I thought would happen, and I was really wrong on some of these. Like, I thought Soul Boys would go out in the round of 16. I meant 32 actually to Blip. That didn't happen. I thought Cobalt would make it out to the grand final. They only made it to the round of 16. Lots of wrong predictions, however, pretty standard bracket. And then we have what happened, and let's just say there was a lot of upsets. You can, of course, see all the top 4 seeds actually fell in the quarterfinals, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, a really good season this year. Absolutely amazing. The bracket was really good, probably the highest quality bracket we've ever seen. So yeah, that wraps up my video or my review on the round of 16 for BattleBots this year. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Ring the notification bell, do all that stuff. So, yeah, I will see you all in the next one, and yeah, goodbye.